Incredible, isn't it? I just saw we're hiring a squire for the jousting. Isn't that amazing? Squire. Like, what year is it? David was able to work closely with Gary Young, who taught him the art and science of natural and sustainable production of aromatic crops. He's passionate about serving in his current role as agronomist of Global Farms. Please welcome to the stage, Mr. David Little.
I'm really glad to be here today. Over the course of the last, 28 hours, I've had a chance to connect with a few of you, and I just want to say thank you. And I really hope that I get a chance to connect with and meet each and every one of you, because when I connect with you and I learn of your background and your stories and where you come from, I learn, I grow, and it becomes part of me. And I hope today, as I share with you my why this matters to me, that you connect with that. And so throughout my presentation, I want you to really think about your why and why it matters. And so I want to share with you, before I get started, a little bit about where my passion comes from. I'm a farmer, and the more you get to know me, you'll realize that is what I breathe, eat, and do is farm and plants and dirt. We'll be walking around and with my wife downtown, and all of a sudden she looks around because I'm gone and I'm in the bushes, right, smelling and checking out the plants. And anyway, that's me. But where that comes from was from my youth. When I was 12 years old, I went out to my grandfather's farm, and I met with him for the first time to be able to work at the farm. And I still remember that experience like it was yesterday. I showed up at the farmhouse, and there he was with his pale green shirt, actually about this color. So that's very cool for me. Anyway, I show up there, and he's got his sturdy boots on, and his worn out gloves, and his face was all windburned and chafed. And he said, "Come on, we're going to the field." And so we march out across the field, and I'm thinking as we're marching, and the wind's blowing, and there's dust in my face, and it's across this field that had just been planted about a week earlier. And I thought to myself, nothing's ever going to grow here. It's in the middle of the desert, right? In southern Idaho. And we get out in the middle of the field, and he kneels down, and he digs down to where there was this teeny little embryo seed that had just started to sprout and grow. And it's where the soil held moisture and nutrients for the plant. And he dug it up, and he said, "David, this is where soil gives life to the plant." And then he went on to talk about how the soil holds nutrients and the importance of all the microbiology, the microbes and the bugs and the insects, and how they work together with the soil to provide nutrients to the plant. And he talked about water management and why that's important. Of course, at the age of 12 years old, that all went over my head, but I'll never forget this next part that he told me. He said, "Everything that we do to care for the plant and to give this plant life, bear in mind that that plant is now prepared to give that life back to you." And at that point, I knew that I wanted to be connected with agriculture and growing crops and sustaining humankind for the rest of my life. And that began my passion. And so I studied it in college. And I've traveled the world in China and Argentina and Mexico, working on carbon sequestration and natural resource management and crop production in 38 states in the United States. And then I come to meet Gary Young. What an incredible experience. You see, when I met Gary Young, I had just been through 25 years of conventional farming and industry and world resource management. And I meet Gary Young, and as I walk into the room, I see this familiar windburned face. And I look down, and he's got these familiar sturdy boots on. And this is in a boardroom filled with all of our executives with shirt and tie and suit. And there's Gary, and he's in his farming clothes, right? And I was very nervous to have this interview with all these very influential people, and Gary immediately looked at me and smiled with a calm, confident smile that meant everything was going to be okay. And I just knew that I was home. And then we started to talk about natural and sustainable crop production practices and why they're important and why it matters. And I hope to share some of that with you today. As we get into my advance or doesn't advance, where do I turn it on? My wife says that. Turn it on, and I'm slow to figure that out. Okay, so, forgive me. Natural sustainable crop production. Okay, so before we get into that though, I want to share a story, and I hope not to get too sidetracked. I'm not really good at following a script, so you're just going to get me and my stories today. But this is a story about a young lady who loved to shop. Anybody here like to shop? Yeah? Anybody like a deal? Right? So this young lady was looking for a cashmere sweater. And she was very interested in a pure, full, authentic cashmere sweater. Why? Because it's soft, it's luxurious, it feels nice on, and it looks amazing. So she goes and she finds this cashmere sweater on sale for $40. She's like, oh, that's a steal. And she grabs the sweater, runs home, washes it, puts it on. Something wasn't quite right. It was a little bit itchy. It wasn't quite what she was expecting. So she takes the sweater off and she looks at the tag and she sees 5% cashmere. She was crushed. She'd been duped. She was expecting authentic cashmere. Well, guess what? In the essential oils industry today, you know how much essential oil has to be in the product to call it an essential oil? By law, 5% of that oil has to be that oil. Guess what percentage of our lavender or any of our essential oils is actually essential oil? 100%. Yeah, very good. Okay, so here she is. She's got this sweater. It wasn't what she was expecting. And I want to talk a little bit about science. Okay? Science today is absolutely amazing. They can take any substance and break it down to the molecular level. And what's more interesting, they can take that and rebuild it synthetically, chemically, right? So there was this set of scientists at Cornell University that wanted to make honey. Because we all know honey to be an amazing natural substance, right? It lasts for hundreds of years. It's got all the enzymes, antibodies, amino acids that are needed to support natural wellness and our immune system, and it's just amazing. So they took some corn syrup and they mixed in a bunch of other synthetic chemicals and they made honey. It felt the same, it tasted the same, it looked the same, it smelled the same. But guess what happened when they placed that honey on a shelf next to the authentic honey? About 6 months later, it spoiled, started to break down and degrade. It did not survive, and it wasn't everything that real honey is. So why does that matter? Why do we care? Right? So I'm going to go out on a limb here. Actually, you know what? I got to take one boot off for a minute, and I got to share a story. I'm way off track now, but so how many of you have ever experienced the hormone imbalance? Anybody? Like once a month for the ladies? And the guys like they hound you about this and they give you grief, right? Which is unfair. But guess what? We men walk around like this all the time. Right? We're out of balance 365, 24/7. Hey, that's why nobody gives us grief, because we're just always out of balance. This is what we look like all the time. But guess what? Very young, I found, he had all this inspiration for natural, sustainable crop production. And that was awesome. And then he learns about lavender and a few of the essential oils, but he never left well enough alone. Then he travels to the Far East to find somebody who knew more about frankincense than he did. And he studied, and he learned, and he brought that to bear. And then he went in other areas of the world, to China, to find the Nietzsche and the wolfberry. Amazing. He never left well enough known, because then he went and learned how to joust and competed. And then he bought a dog sled and ran the Iditarod, right? He's always doing something new. So I took that upon myself to have a new experience. How many of you have had a new Young Living experience this month? This week? Today? Right? So last week I was in Canada. And here I am, and I'm walking around doing my usual out of balance thing, right? All the time. And I tried, at the advice of our Canadian general manager, try some shoe trim. Anybody try a shoe trim? Men in the room, you gotta try it, because here we are, we're walking around like this and we're going crazy, and everybody thinks we're cool, but we're really out of balance. Okay, why and how? I'll explain. So we've got this thing called testosterone, which helps to build the man, and I got it on, and I'm the protector and the defender, right? And that's really cool, but guess what? There's a whole other, that's this side of the boot. The side that doesn't have the boot, I'm also a caretaker. I'm a lovemaker. I'm the provider, and I want to care for my family. The compassionate side of me sometimes is out of balance with the I'm the man side of me, right? So, I try shoe trim, and guess what? Gary made this oil for us men. He wanted to put us back, he wanted to put our shoe back on, shoe trim. He wanted to put our boot back on. He wanted to have a balance with the Idaho bush spruce and the black spruce from Northern Lights to support my manly side and my protector side, and also the ylang-ylang and the Orchitea that supports my more feminine side, my caretaker side, my lover side. Very cool. So now I get to be balanced, and I love it. All right, I'm back on track here. So, with the honeybee, how does that work? How does the bee make honey? I want to share something with you. Now, bear with me. How many of you are bilingual? Speak more than one language.
Woo!
Okay, awesome. So I've been speaking the farmer version of English, right? And that's fine. Ni hao ma, wo jiao li jiao li. I can't remember the rest of that, but that's supposed to be Mandarin Chinese, right? Y la cosa que quiero decir es que un idioma no se comparte con otro idioma.
Sí.
What I'm trying to explain is one language is very foreign to another language, and they don't match. I can't use 3 Chinese words together with 2 English words together with 3 Spanish words and make a sentence. It doesn't work. Okay? So guess what language my body speaks? My body speaks authentic. Anybody else's body speak authentic? My body speaks natural. My body speaks sustainable. My body speaks microbiology, microbiochemistry, biophysical. I'm a biological being, so that's the language my body speaks. You know why Young Living essential oils are so effective at supporting natural wellness? Authentic. It's all biological. It's all natural. Hashtag authentic matters, right? So I want to talk a little bit about our production practices, and it's kind of odd. Why? So another story real quick. Hope I don't get too far off. But just recently was in, where was I? Oh gosh. Ohio.
Lansing.
I don't remember. Where?
Lansing, Michigan.
Anyway, I was in Ohio, and I get off the airplane, and I've got to get to the venue, right? And so I get off the airplane, I jump on an Uber, and we're cruising down the road, and the Uber driver says, "So what do you do for a living?" And I'm like, yes. She's opened the door, right? And so she comes in and she says, "What do you do for a living?" I said, "Oh, I work for Young Living. Are you familiar with essential oils?" She says, "Oh yeah, I use oils from one of your competitors." "Fantastic. What's your experience been?" She says, "Oh, it was okay." I'm like, "Just okay? Tell me about it." And she went on, "Well, I got this oil and I did this thing and, it was okay." I'm like, "Oh, well, do you know why Young Living has our own farms, that we own our own farms? Do you know why we do that?" No. So then I talked to her. Oh, dang. Sorry, we're heading back. This week, that's the bee part. organic carbon, nothing man-made. So tillage is when we run a tractor behind it. I'm a tractor driver, right? And I'm excited because I got dust going in the air and I'm pulling my plow and it's digging up the soil. What we don't realize is even though that's an organic practice, it's not only about being organic. It's about being natural and sustainable, right? So at Young Living, we're all things organic, and we're all things biofarming, all things permaculture, in their perfect blend, in their perfect form, right? So if I'm plowing and I'm digging up the soil, I'm destroying soil structure, letting organic carbon off into the atmosphere, and killing microbes and bugs and insects and worms that are there to help feed my plant. So we have to take care of that and mitigate that by putting back organics into the soil. All right, one other thing, so here on the right, we've got to manage our water. In Utah, we're very water limited, so we have to irrigate. And as good stewards of the earth, we have to manage that water resource and put on just the right amount of water for what the crop needs and what the soil can hold so that we don't have runoff and leaching and erosion, right? On the far right, we've got a crop that we grow that's a perennial plant, lavender. Okay, and so lavender, we plant it in the ground and it's perennial. So that means year after year after year, I can harvest that same plant. Very cool. But what happens is, in order to get the nutrients, those roots are down in the soil and they're giving out chelates and acids. Like this, feeding the microbes and the microbiology. And then when it sucks up, those roots are like straws. And all those nutrients come back to the plant. And it's really cool. But because they're kicking out the same chelates and acids all the time, it basically creates a condition called phytotoxicity. So in time, if I leave that cover crop or that perennial plant in the soil too long, it's going to kill itself because the soil needs to sustain itself. So we have to rotate crops in a timely manner to be able to maintain healthy soils. All right, so when we rotate lavender out, we come in with a multi-species cover crop. Give it up for cover crops. Now, all these things work together. Cover crops, putting on mulches, microbes, and so in this particular case, we have 8 different species of plants that we plant together in the field. And what we do with those, 4 of them are legumes. A legume is a plant that, when the roots go in the soil, it's really good buddies with a bacteria called nitrous sabonus bacteria. And that bacteria, everybody take a deep breath. Okay? Other than the essential oils that you breathe in, the rest of that air is 80% nitrogen, believe it or not. And so the nitrous sabonus bacteria can fix nitrogen out of the atmosphere and put it into the soil to feed the plant. So we love bacteria, the right kinds of bacteria. And so clover, hairy vetch, and cowpea, not cowpea, the cowpea that's a plant. Those are all legumes and they help feed the plant the nitrogen, right? And then we've got sorghum sudan grass and mustard weed that we put in there because when they're plowed under, they give off a cyanide gas that can help to kill bad nematodes. Nematode is a little insect that will chew on the roots and kill the plant. So we have a natural fumigation for those with the sorghum sudan grass and the mustard weed. Very cool. We also have the daikon radish. It's a big taproot that goes down and breaks up the compaction and makes space. And for lack of a better term, there's goo. That is a technical term. Goo gets down in and it helps to build soil structure. Okay? So all the things that we do with our cover crop is to put back that expensive crop into Mother Earth and plow it in, giving organic carbon. And all of the life that we just explained back to the soil, so the soil can get back to the plants. Then this is my favorite thing. Again, I'm on my tractor, I'm looking back, watching the dust go, and I holler out, "Doer, tour, manure!" And it's put back out on the field, and guess what? All by itself, that's a great thing. It's going to help to loosen up the soil. And okay, so I got to have Gary, when I worked with him, taught me to think like a plant. And we're going to talk a little bit more about that. But I want everybody to put your hand over your mouth and breathe through your fingers. Come on, everybody else, breathe through your fingers. Okay, now press your hand tight against your mouth and breathe. You can't breathe. You can't eat. plant fields, right? If its roots are in compacted soils, it can't breathe, it can't eat, it can't live. And so the organic carbon and the organic matter we put back helps to loosen up the soil so it can breathe, so it can eat. It gives the microbiology, the protozoa, the bacteria, the mycorrhizal fungi, something to eat so that it can help feed the plant. Very cool, we love it. All right, so crop rotations, we talked about that. At the farm in Mona, we plant a little over 2 million plants every year. They get transplanted out to the field. Goldenrod, hyssop, lavender, blue yarrow, all the different crops that we grow there so that we can continue to meet the ever-growing demand of essential oils. Water management, distribution uniformity. So I walk out into one of our fields and I noticed that the goldenrod on one part of the field is about 12 feet tall, and goldenrod on another part is only about 5 feet tall. Why do you think? Well, in this case, it turned out to be water management. We had some of our nozzles get plugged, and it really highlighted the importance of routine maintenance on our irrigation system to make sure that we're putting on a uniform distribution of water so that every plant in that field has the opportunity to reach its highest potential. We also are working on conservation water management practices, using strip cropping and contour farming, and even drip irrigation on weed barrier to be able to conserve our moisture and manage our natural resources. Now, I talked earlier about cover crops, and if you thought I got excited then, I'm really excited about...
This is Jared. I am the president of Young Living, your favorite company in the whole world.
When we get into
I'm standing in my
our
office.
hedgerow cover crops, we have a hedgerow crop like lavender. Okay? So lavender, we grow it in a row, and in between the row, we plant in a multi-species cover crop. We come back and mow this periodically during the season and leave the clippings as a mulch on the ground. Now, I mentioned before, when I'm in the tractor, letting the manure spreader do his thing, all of that organic carbon and organic matter is great, but all by itself, it's not going to do everything that we need. We're missing part of the picture. How many of you are familiar with epoxy glue? There's two tubes, right? One tube is the hardener and one tube is the good stuff. I don't know what's in it, but together they make the epoxy glue, and it's really good. Well, the organic carbon and the organics and the manure, that's all part of the picture. The other part is the microbiology, the protozoa, the bacteria, the mycorrhizal fungi that we have to nurture and take care of. They can break down that organic matter and feed the plant. And when we do this, we were in a field that the soil starting out was really not that great soil. It's in an arid environment, so it hadn't had a chance to build organics, okay? But in that inter-row cover crop, we're reclaiming and producing sustainable soil, so it's a naturally sustainable cycle for the plant. For those so I was in a field of lavender that did not have inter-row cover crop, and I'm standing out there all by myself, and I'm enjoying the view, and it's pretty. And then I go and stand in this field with the inter-row cover crop, and there's bees buzzing all around, and there's insects and bugs and microbes, and the soil was so much more healthy, and the plants were also so much more healthy. That's the balance of natural sustainable crop production. Okay, I gotta tell you another story before we go on. When I was a little kid, my mom, how many here like to make homemade bread or eat homemade bread? Yeah? Awesome. I love homemade bread. So my mom and I would walk to school every day, and yeah, it was uphill both ways and some other okay? So I'm walking to school, I get to school, I do my thing, I'm walking home, and all of a sudden on the airwaves, I catch a whiff of Mom's homemade bread. So I run home. I get home, I crash through the door, my mom's got a couple of big fat slices of homemade bread on the table, slathered with honey, and I just, A few years later, I'm in college, and my roommates, like every college student, come in, they're like, David, we're hungry, right? Every college student's hungry. So they said, what can we do? I said, hey, my mom knows how to make bread, let's make bread. So I called up Mom, how do you make bread? Oh yeah, put in some flour and sugar and water and yeast, mix it all up and throw it in the oven, and 20 minutes later you got bread. Oh, cool. So we put in some yeast and flour and water and sugar, we mix it all up and we throw it in the oven, and we're gardening. Like, anybody touches this oven while our bread's cooking is going to get it, right? So anyway, the dinger goes off, we open it up. It was better served as a doorstop. So, come on, Mom, what happened? The bread it didn't. And she said, oh yeah, I forgot to tell you, the water has to be exactly 112 degrees. And you put in a little bit of sugar and a little bit of the yeast, or all the yeast, and you let it bubble up and get a good, nice head on it. And then you can add the rest of your ingredients and you mix it up, and then you knead it. And I said, oh yeah, I knead it. And she said, no, you gotta knead it. Right? And then you put it in the pan and let it rise. And I'm thinking, good grief. You gotta let it rise, and then you beat it down. I'm like, really? And then you rise it again, and you beat it down, and you put it in the tins, and you let it rise again. And I'm thinking, man, all of that goes into making bread? She says, yeah. So she taught me how to make bread, and it helped me to start to realize how to make or to produce the essential oils. You see, here on the right, we've got blue yarrow, and on the left, we have goldenrod. And what's amazing is Chris Packer and our environmental science team and our farm managers, they all work together to make sure that we're harvesting at exactly the right time. So Chris goes out beforehand and his team, and they sample and they test. And once the conditions are exactly right, when all of the constituents of essential oils are there that are desirable, then it's time to harvest. Now, I want you to think about a tulip or a dandelion. Right? You go out, middle of the day, that tulip is just loving it, and you can smell it, and the bees are buzzing around, and they're going crazy psycho, and it's awesome, and it's just wonderful. What happens when the clouds come out and the barometric pressure drops and it starts to rain? That tulip closes up, and you can still smell it, but it's not nearly as fragrant. Guess why? Because of that condition, all of those essentials come back into the core of the plant. And so when we're harvesting, and we're taking the top parts of the plant to harvest, and all of those essentials are down in the core, not on my watch, right? So I called Gary up one day, I said, Gary, tomorrow's harvest, we can get going at 4:30 in the morning, right? And usually Gary's going at 4:30 in the morning, but not to harvest. He said, no, see, we don't harvest until exactly the right time of day when that plant is in its full essence and ready to be harvested. Okay? And so not only are we testing right up to the day we harvest, but all during harvest we're also testing to make sure that the conditions are exactly right and haven't changed, so that when we harvest, we get all of the essentials that we need for that essential oil to have efficacy in supporting our natural wellness. Very cool. And then we bring that into the distillery, and we distill at just the right temperature, just the right pressure, for just the right amount of time. Now, everybody's wearing size 7 shoe, right? Everybody's got a size 7. Wouldn't it be cool? Guess what? Every plant is unique. So every plant has to have a little bit different temperature, time, pressure, how it's packed into the kettle, different harvest techniques. For example, Melissa, we harvest Melissa and we cook it immediately. Within 2 hours, we've got to cook it. Otherwise, it breaks down and we lose a lot of the essential oils. Our evergreen products like blue spruce, black spruce, white pine, or white fir, all of those, we can harvest them and distill them, and we can cook those for about 7 hours and still get full, awesome constituency. The Melissa, the lavender, after about 2.5 hours cooking, we got to shut it off because now we start to get constituents that are undesirable. And I was like, man, Gary, how do we know this? And he just politely explained, we're the pioneer in essential oils. We get it. And evermore, we're continuing to study every day. You see, Gary never left well enough alone. Just because we think we know something, that doesn't mean that that's the only thing to know. So he was always asking me to challenge what we know. Study it, test it, try it, continue to expand, find something that's a little bit better, a little bit stronger. Why? And okay, another side story. I was with Gary driving this truck, and I'm asking him about this massive company that he's built with Young Living. And he turned to me and he said, it's not about being massive and huge company. I could care less. He said it's about the one individual that we can bring reduced pain, reduced stress, reduced anxiety, increase care, connection, and happiness and joy. It's about the one, right? And I was so taken by that. The interest in one individual, that he would do everything that he did for you. people. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. White stripes. This way, come with me. You're going to put 4 on each side of this set of boxes. Now, one of the things that we're going to do, we're going to plant. And how many of you have a garden? Garden, awesome. If you don't have a garden, I challenge you, you've been given a pot, plant something. Okay? Get your hands in the dirt. Why? Because you're going to have, I promise you will have the same experience that I had when I was 12 years old. All of a sudden, you're going to realize the opportunity to give life to this plant. So, I want everybody on my side, you got to pay attention over here. Everybody on my side, you're going to have to wait. Everybody on my side is going to put their hands. Everybody on this side, you're going to grab a plant. Go ahead and grab one. And you're going to pull it out and shake it out. And I want to know, what do you observe? What do you notice? I want you to rough it up and smell it. Taste it. Experience it if you want. You don't have to. If Gary were here, he would make you taste it, right? But I want you to get familiar with what you're dealing with here. Now, you're going to take this plant and plant it into the hands of your partner. And then you got to dress around it with some soil and pack it in and give it some foundation. Right? Pack it in there, throw some dirt in your hair, it's all good. Okay? Pack it in. So now what's going on is you're planting this plant. I want you to think about all the care that we take to give life to this plant. And now this plant is prepared to give that life back to you in the form of essential oils. Okay, so now dig a hole for them to be able to plant that down into. Now if you're planting plants at home, you want to dig a hole twice as wide and twice as deep. And then back, you want those roots to be able to breathe, right? So we got to loosen it up. Okay, now switch. So this side, you're going to hold your hands in a cup. And this side, you're going to pick up another plant. Oh, go ahead and plant it down. There you go. Now, before you plant it in your hands, you got to feel the roots. Check it out. Now, sometimes when you pull a plant out of the nursery, it's all got the roots wrapped around in the bottom of the cup. Don't be afraid to break that apart. Loosen it up, right? Get the hand off its mouth so it can breathe. And then you can set it down in and go ahead and plant. Pack some dirt around it. Why? The dirt is the protector, it's the defender, right? So here comes the storm. Blowing and crazy. And the soil helps to protect that plant. And it's going to provide the nutrients and the life to that plant.
Different cover crop depending on the crop that you're planting, or do you use that same?
Great question. So our question, we use a different cover crop for different crops that we're planting. And the answer is yes. For example, we found in Ecuador, if we'll plant clover as a companion crop in the Yucatan, that we can provide some nitrogen to the trees, and there's a certain insect that we don't like there that doesn't like the clover. And so, win-win. With lavender, lavender is a plant that really likes fungal dominant soils, and oregano promotes the production of mycorrhizal fungi. So we want to include oregano in that mix. So yes, a different crop has a different blend of inter-row cover crops. Awesome, thank you for your help. Give everybody a hand. If you want to wash your hands, there's a cup of water and a rag over here. If not, you can just go sit down and lick your fingers. All right, so all the things that I learned in the natural sustainable crop production that were inspired by Gary Young have really become part of my life. You know, Gary, unfortunately, I only had about a year and a half to train with Gary. And he is by far the greatest mentor I could have ever asked for. Not only in terms of agronomy and natural sustainable crop production, but as a human being, as a husband, as a father, as a neighbor, as a friend. He's taught me more about life than anybody that I've ever come into contact with. And I'd like to share with you a little bit more about the broader vision of Gary and some of the other things that he taught to me in my life through his experiences. asked, did Gary Young teach you everything that you know about growing aromatic plants and distilling essential oils? Well, guess what? He didn't. You see, Gary didn't just give me a fish to eat. He taught me how to fish. He taught me to question what we already know, challenge that, study it out. Go find somebody that knows more about a given subject than I do, and learn with them, study with them, share with them, expand your knowledge and apply it. And then reach out and share that experience with somebody else. And Gary didn't only empower me, he empowered thousands of employees within Young Living, and now millions of members of Young Living that can carry on this great work. What an amazing thing that Gary has done for us. When I think about all that Gary did and all that he taught me, I gotta tell another story really quick. Sorry, I'm probably right.
Thank you.
So, Gary and I are traveling together. We're on our way to Tapiona, and he starts asking me about natural sustainable crop production practices. And this was actually this was in my interview as we were going to be able to go on a snowmobiling trip. And anyway, it was just amazing to me. I asked him, tell me about your practices, and he finished. And I was convinced that he knew everything there was to know about natural sustainable crop production. And then he turns to me and he said, tell me about your background and your experiences with natural sustainability. And I thought, man, this man that is in a position of power, he owns this company, really cares what I have to say. Not because he wanted any advantage, but because he was certainly interested in learning. You see, we've had different backgrounds, different experiences, and he wanted to learn what he didn't already know, which was really cool. All of the things that I learned about from Gary and work ethic and the experiences that I have, Gary lived a fairly short life in our standard at 68 years. And I didn't quite get, at the time when he passed, I was convinced that he had crammed more into 68 years than most people do in 2 lifetimes. He was just always engaging. And in the last year and a half since his passing, we have been engaged in a number of different research projects, testing and challenging what we know, finding new plants, new crops, new oils. As we've done that, every time we study out and we follow the scientific method, right? Having statistical liability in our studies to make sure we know the best methods to use. But without fail, every time we lay it out, we feel strongly impressed that we need to test a certain approach. And without fail, every time, that approach has been right. Now, where I'm going with this, Brett Packer called me up one day in January. He's our farm manager at Highland Flats. Brett says, hey, I'm going to Oregon State. We're going to study microbiology and soils. Great, go, have a good time. Let me know how it goes. So he goes down there and does that. In June, I'm working with an organic farming consultant at True Earth out of Savannah, Georgia. And he says, hey, David, we got to go to Oregon and get this training on microbiology and living soils. Oh, cool, we go. And I'm sitting in class, and it dawns on me, this is the same class that Brett had been in just a few months earlier. And then I connect with our farm manager in Ecuador, where Gary spent 7 years studying microbiology and soils and setting up vermiculture and worm tea and compost tea and reproducing microbes and being able to inject those microbes and microbiology in the soil. And when he did that, and I compared what he did in Ecuador with what Brett studied, with what I studied, it's all the same. It's the exact same approach. And so I'm convinced that Gary is still involved in everything that we do. And I'm so grateful to be able to carry on in natural sustainable production. Why does this matter? For me, it's all about people. Everything that we do at Young Living is all about people. It's about the one, right? And I want you to think about how that connects for you and why authentic matters for you. Take home messages, #authentic matters. Naturally sustainable farming practices render the highest quality essential oils. Everything we do is all about people. And I want you to share your why. Now, my why is all about people. Well, let me tell you why. It's about my wife, who has some health conditions, right? It's about my son. It's about my daughter. It's about my neighbor down the street who's a little off her rocker, and we love her piece of coffee. What do all these people have in common? Well, it's not that I'm not making a claim here that Young Living Essential Oils is going to cure every disease known to man. It's just not. What I am saying is that we're human, we're mortal. I'm getting old, and what ain't broke don't work no more. Anybody experience that? What I am saying is that Young Living Essential Oils have the ability to support